we hack the code and flip the tag. Where cliches come to retire. Drop that beat, turn down to fire. Say what's real, make fears take a seat. Unconventional wisdom, dancing on your feet. Hey.
Hello, and welcome to Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom. I am excited to talk to Andy Daly today, and let me tell you a little bit about her before I turn it over to her. So, she is an accomplished commercial and intellectual property litigator with more than a decade of experience representing clients across industries, including telecom, finance, medical devices, and higher education. So she has some unique experience here because she's in a private firm now, but she's also been in-house as associate general counsel for a global pharmaceutical company where she helped lead high stakes litigation and regulatory matters. And so that is an important thing that she can bring to her clients now, being at a firm. She brings a unique perspective on leadership, complex problem solving, and navigating high pressure legal challenges. Andy, welcome.
Hi, good to see you, Kim.
I am so excited to have this conversation with you today. So, before we get into the leadership part, I have a question for you. Even though I'm sure that you love the law and you've been doing it for a long time, if we took your license away and put you somewhere else and said, you have to figure out something else to do, what would that be?
I think it would be a toss-up. I would either be a physical therapist or I would own a little cafe and make my own little treats and snacks and have my regular customers come in.
I love that. Like a little cheers for the cafe crowd instead of
Correct.
the bar crowd. I love
Correct.
that. You know what's funny is that I'm reading a detective series right now and it takes place in Venice. And so they always go to the bar, and the bar means they go to get their coffee, right? So it's just a different way of thinking about it. So, what would be your signature treat that you would offer?
I don't know what my signature treat would be, but I know my kids would demand I make these banana chocolate chip muffins that I make every week and have on hand.
Oh, I love that. You know what's very funny is that my husband just said to me, so we have some bananas that need to be baked in something. He said, "Oh, are you going to make banana bread?" I said, "No, I'm going to make something more healthy with them." Yeah. But yeah, I love that. All right, let's talk a little bit more about you and hear more about your story. And my first question for you is about what your expectations were when you were younger, just starting your career, maybe even as a kid, right? And then you took that into the work world, and what conventional business wisdom did you follow early on because it's what you thought it was supposed to be, and only to realize later it was just not working for you?
I can give you two, and to be honest, I barely dabbled in them. They were more conventional wisdoms that I heard, and I knew neither of these things are for me to do. First, fake it till you make it. And second, checking your personal life at the door when you get to work. And for fake it till you make it, I understand it in principle, and I agree in being fully confident in your abilities to do something, even if you've never done that specific thing before. But
Mhm.
it became apparent to me really early on. It gets really applied in practice where people are faking to have experience that they don't have. That's never been an option for me. I was always curious to learn the things I didn't know. And that was a non starter, at least as it's typically applied for me.
Right.
And then, second, this idea of keeping your personal life and your professional life completely separate. It was never going to work for me. I was a bit of an oversharer. I still probably am. But at the end of the day, in our office and on our team, I don't want to work with robots where I don't know anything about their lives and their families. And when they have something good going on, bad going on, it's helpful to be a part of that. And I don't think you can do that if you pretend your personal life doesn't exist the
Right.
moment you walk in the door.
I would agree. It's interesting in my coaching practice. In fact, this just came up recently where It's tricky when you're the boss, though, sometimes, right? Because you want to have compassion and you want to give grace and you do want to know what's going on in people's lives on the one hand. On the other hand, if you're a remote worker and you have children and it's the summertime and no childcare and 3 months of being totally distracted, there's a point at which your job is your job.
Absolutely. And
Right.
I'm not suggesting that I think your personal life should trump, or if you have something you're rolling into the office in tears every day. But if you have a really important event that it's a
Right.
celebration for your grandma and you're simply not available this weekend, I don't want to be bothering you with work, right? Like,
Right.
I think it's important to try to keep those boundaries, and I want to respect my team's time to make sure they have time to do the things that are important
Right.
outside of work.
Right. I would agree with you. And I think if you don't share those things, then there's an expectation that you're going to pay attention to something that you're not paying attention to. That creates an issue in and of itself. Yeah. Yeah. No, I would agree with you. I think it is helpful. And also, too, you don't want to be a robot of somebody who only works and has no life.
Not at all. And I don't think I want my team to see me that way either, because I think you
Right.
do need to lead by example. And if the example I set is work, all we do is work, all we talk about is work, how does that leave space for my teammates to feel safe in saying, no, I can't do this on Tuesday night. I have a swim meet. That's great. You go to the swim meet.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. You've been doing this for a long time, right? Like we've said, you've been in house, you've been in private practice. As a successful leader, what's one thing that people look at you on the outside and we're like, oh, Andy's got that all figured out? And then on the inside, you're like, oh, I am still wrestling with this.
Probably like most people, the myth of work life balance. I don't know if there is really such a thing. But I think from the outside, there are people like, oh, look, she has the law practice and she's got the kids and she goes and she runs and she cooks and she does these things and she's got it all figured out. And every day, those things are decisions that you make about what to
Right.
prioritize and when. So I don't know if there ever comes a point where you figure it out. And if you do, something's going to change and you're going to need to refigure it out again. So I think it's a process.
And I think people get themselves in trouble when they think they have it figured out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, at least for me, I found I have to be really deliberate about my time and my intentions, and
Right.
that's a daily process.
Right, absolutely. You know, one thing, and I cannot say that I came up with this, it's actually from an app that I use called the 5 Minute Journal, which I have no affiliation to, but I do think it's a terrific app. There's an app, and then you can also get like a paper journal if that's more your thing, which I think are good things, but they're things that you've heard before, right? The set intention for the day, do your affirmations, do a little bit of meditation. It's guided and it's asking you the questions. What are you grateful for? Which is great. But I'll tell you, they ask you one question, which really gets to what you were talking about. It was just like a total mind blower to me, which is what do you need to make today great? And although I don't always love the word great, sounds a little hypey, but I do like that idea of checking in with yourself and saying, what do I need today? I see what's on the calendar, but what do I need?
Yeah. And in terms of things being great, I've always been someone who's kind of a grateful person to begin with. It's funny you use that word back in college when I used to waitress. You hand people the check at the end, and then I would say, I hope you have a great night. And there was another waitress who used to always get on my case because she was like, don't just have a good night, have a great night. But I meant it because it does change your frame of how you're viewing everything. And you can have a great day if you want to.
Right. It's such a great way to focus on what actually do I need today, right? Is this just a power through work day, right? Is this a I need a hug day, right? Is this I need to make space to go out for a run because I just need those endorphins, right? Is it in order for today to be great, I actually need to give some extra attention to one of my kids. You know what I mean? I just think it's such an interesting way to start your day, right? And when you talk about balance, because sometimes you're a litigator, sometimes there is not balance.
Correct. Sometimes you just can't control what the day is going to bring. And that's part of what comes with the territory. But I think that also is part of then when the big case settles or you have resolution on an issue and trying to be okay with that time, which takes a lot more work than I thought that it would when I was younger. The seasoned
Right.
attorneys would say, enjoy that downtime, take that time, enjoy it. And you can't help but be stressed at the same time, right? I think it's the forever litigator stress. You're either stressed about the work you have or the stressed about the work you don't have.
Right.
And finding peace in that space where you're like, hey, this is time I can really use to focus on these other things right now because I don't know what might come in the door tomorrow.
I love that. That's a great thought. And I think that the idea of keep circling back to the same thing, which is being present with what is, right? I think we spend so much time either in wishing for something in the future or regretting something or reliving something from the past. It's just a great reminder to live in the present. Yeah. If you could rewrite the rule book on leadership, you run a team, what's one outdated belief that you'd throw away and what would you replace it with?
I think in the legal profession, certainly an outdated belief that just more time and more billing is better. I think that we want to always be finding ways to make our teams more efficient and have the quality of work be there. But this is not a bill as many hours as you can, because I don't think that's helping anybody, really. It's not helping
Mhm.
the clients who are paying for it, it's not helping your sanity. So, how can we find ways to be efficient and still get really high quality work that's serving our clients?
It's so interesting that you say that because I talked to a 6-year attorney last week who was talking about billing and getting enough hours in, and it all sort of ties in, right? It's like the work life balance, it's the what is quality work versus what's an appropriate amount of time, and the perennial every attorney client that I've ever worked with, which is, have you actually accurately billed your time? When you do it once a month, you just can't know.
I don't think I could do it if I didn't do it in real time every day,
Well,
which
let me tell you,
it's a
go
separate
ahead.
way of life. You live your life in to some extent in 6 minute increments when you're doing that. But you've got to mark it down because otherwise you just have no accurate barometer
That's
for
right.
how long you really spend doing something. It's way too hard to recall after the fact. And at least I cannot do it. We also just don't do that at our firm.
Yeah, which is wonderful, right? Because I think accuracy, but my experience is that if you don't do it, at least the attorneys that I've worked with, they tend to underbill, right? Because they don't want to bill for things that they haven't done, right? And if they can't recall, they're going to underestimate versus overestimate.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you know,
And I think that happens all the time, especially with email. You check a random email here or there, you send it out. I'm not capturing that time some of the time. And it's certainly the way it goes.
yeah. Yeah, no, I think that is really though a really good point, which is you do have to stay on top of it. And it's good if that is just a firm rule, then that's also I think super helpful. What is one unconventional habit or mindset shift that's helped you grow your book of business?
I don't know if it's anything particularly unconventional, other than I've approached every piece of work that we do being curious and authentic. And so every case that comes in and every client that we have, I want to understand their business, what is important to them in this situation, what really is their objective. And it's not always what you would think coming into a case. They may have a very different objective based on some other part of their business. So, really digging in and understanding not just the specific issue in the case, but what it means for them as a company, where I've always focused my time initially, because otherwise you're working in a vacuum. I think
Right.
one of the best pieces of advice I got when I was a very young attorney, a partner I worked with said, don't line up projects like boxcars, right? You don't want to get in, do the task, get in, do the task, and have no oversight of where the train is going. right?
Hmm.
And so I think I've always approached things that way, and it does lead to building relationships with your clients, and then you're the person that they're reaching out to when something
Right.
pops up.
Because I think that makes total sense. Because, first of all, if you don't know what you don't know, right? Because they know their business, right? They're just coming to you for one matter or issue or whatever, right? So, understanding the bigger picture does move you from I'm going to resolve this in this specific thing to being a trusted advisor,
Yeah,
right? And also, too, I think context is everything. And it is much better to know the context in the beginning than it is to find out, right? That there's this whole other piece that they didn't think to tell you about,
exactly.
right? Yeah, that can make things pretty complicated. Very interesting. All right. I'm going to throw another question at you here. So, you run a team. So, what I would love to know is what's your biggest leadership or management challenge right now?
I think one thing, and as a profession generally, I think one of the things that we're dealing with is the changing model of how you're really developing your associates. There's
Yeah.
certainly been a lot of changes to the old apprenticeship model, some of it with AI and other tools that exist, right?
Hmm.
But some of the opportunities that used to exist and were the sort of the bread and butter for junior associates back in the day, they just don't exist in the same way
Right.
or look the same way now. And so figuring out how we bring those associates along and develop their skills so that they're getting
Right.
those opportunities or better.
And it does occur to me that even AI is definitely changing the landscape for younger workers. But the other thing is, too, is that the pandemic changed things so significantly, right? We used to be everybody was in the office. So those training opportunities happened so much more naturally, right?
Absolutely. In our office pre pandemic, if there's a call, you pop down to the office down the hall, you're participating, you're getting all that knowledge, you're having the follow up that happens after it. And with COVID, sure, you could still do those things, but it definitely took effort to make that happen, right? You've got to have the Teams invite or the Zoom link and invite the person, and they have to get on, and then you have to have a debrief after. It was much more concerted effort to do that and a little less organic, I think,
Right.
than hearing the call next door and popping over and saying, "Hey, do you have a minute?" and asking those kinds of questions. So I think
Right.
that's a challenging piece, but there are also a lot of really great opportunities there. At least for me, it takes some time to be more deliberate about making time to have
Right.
meaningful feedback and training and mentorship with associates, separate and apart from formal training programs that
Right.
we have.
I will tell you, your associates are lucky to have you because I think I have worked with so many partners who and senior associates who just want everybody to just know, right? They do not want to train them, they just want them to be excellent.
Yeah, and we have excellent associates, but it also is unreasonable to expect them to know how to do things they've never done. So, just last week I found myself saying, "Hey, if you guys have time on Monday or Tuesday, so let's set some time to just debrief on XYZ." And they're more grateful than I even would think they might be. They really value that time and appreciate hey, let's think about why are we doing this task and what goes into it to help them to see the global picture. And now they've gotten so much more out of it than the specific task.
Right. You just hit on something that I think, oh my gosh, this I think I want to just sing to the rooftops, which is the why. So, right? Like AI can help you with the how, right? They can help you or with the what, right? These are what the words are. But the context and understanding when you use this, when you use that, how you do it, why we do it this way, it's invaluable.
Yeah, and I think it's critical to getting the task not only done, but done the right way and the way that's going to best meet our clients' needs. I
Right.
think it's fundamental.
And here's the thing, if you take the time up front and they're not just rote learning a task, but they're actually understanding context and why and all the things, then they're going to, maybe not the next time, maybe it will take three or four or five times, but they're going to grow and then they're going to make better decisions and become much more independent.
And I think as a leader on our teams, that's what I want to see. I don't necessarily expect perfection the first time, right? But I want to see them growing and taking ownership of tasks and growing into their own
Right.
roles so that they can take on the more complex tasks later.
Yes, I agree 100%. And like I said, they are so lucky to have you.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right. So now what I would love to know is what's your biggest leadership or management challenge right now?
I think one thing as a profession generally, I think one of the things that we're dealing with is the changing model of how you're really developing your associates. There's
Yeah.
certainly been a lot of changes to the old apprenticeship model, some of it with AI and other tools that exist, right?
Hmm.
But some of the opportunities that used to exist and were the sort of the bread and butter for junior associates back in the day, they just don't exist in the same way or look the same way now. And so figuring out how we bring those associates along and develop their skills so that they're getting
Right.
those opportunities or better.
And it does occur to me that even AI is definitely changing the landscape for younger workers. The other thing is, too, is that the pandemic changed things so significantly, right? We used to be everybody was in the office. So those training opportunities happened so much more naturally, right?
Absolutely. In our office pre-pandemic, if there's a call, you pop down to the office down the hall, you're participating, you're getting all that knowledge, you're having the follow-up that happens after it. And with COVID, sure you could still do those things, but it definitely took effort to make that happen. You've got to have the Teams invite or the Zoom link and invite the person and they have to get on and then you have to have a debrief after. It was much more concerted effort to do that and a little less organic, I think,
Right.
than hearing the call next door and popping over and saying, "Hey, do you have a minute?" and asking those kinds of questions. So I think
Right.
that's a challenging piece, but there are also a lot of really great opportunities there. And looking at how we, at least for me, it takes some time to be more deliberate about making time to have
Right.
meaningful feedback and training and mentorship with associates, separate and apart from formal training program have.
I will tell you, your associates are lucky to have you because I think I have worked with so many partners who and senior associates who just want everybody to just know, right? They do not want to train them, they just want them to be excellent.
Yeah, and we have excellent associates, but it also is unreasonable to expect them to know how to do things they've never done. So, just last week I found myself saying, "Hey, if you guys have time on Monday or Tuesday, let's set some time to just debrief on XYZ." And they're more grateful than I even would think they might be. They really value that time and appreciate the, hey, let's think about why are we doing this task and what goes into it to help them to see the global picture. And now they've gotten so much more out of it than the specific task.
You just hit on something that I think, oh my gosh, this I think I want to just sing to the rooftops, which is the why, right? I can help you with the how, right? They can help you or with the what, right? These are what the words are, but the context and understanding when you use this, when you use that, how you do it, why we do it this way, it's invaluable.
Yeah, and I think it's critical to getting the task not only done, but done the right way in the way that's going to best meet our clients' needs. It's fundamental.
And here's the thing, if you take the time up front and they're not just rote learning a task, but they're actually understanding context and why and all the things, then they're going to, maybe not the next time, maybe it will take three or four or five times, but they're going to grow and then they're going to become make better decisions and become much more independent.
And I think as a leader on our teams, that's what I want to see. I don't necessarily expect perfection the first time, right? But I want to see them growing and taking ownership of tasks and growing into their own
Right.
roles so that they can take on the more complex tasks later.
Yes, I agree 100%. And like I said, they are so lucky to have you.
I hope.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Many leaders secretly battle with imposter syndrome, no matter how successful they are. And I think there's two questions I want to ask you about this. If in this current iteration of Andy, it's going to come up for you, where do you think that little tweak or trigger is going to show up? And then the second thing is when it does, what do you do to get yourself moving forward again?
I don't think it's an if, it's a when. And it of course happens. I went in-house for 4 years and I came back to the firm in September. And even then you have a moment of, what if I'm not good at this anymore?
Right.
Which is madness, right? I didn't lose those skills over the 4 years I went in-house. I didn't lose any of those pieces, but it certainly crosses your mind at the
Sure.
time. And I remember when I came back, and there's some media about returning to the firm, and I read the bio and things, and I'm like, if someone else's name was attached to that, I would be like, wow, that is so impressive. And yet I don't see those things in myself necessarily. So
Right.
sometimes there's just a reminder of stepping back and almost outside of yourself and
Mhm.
reminding yourself of how capable you are and the things that you've done to get there, because it definitely creeps up. And I think
Yeah.
more around times of change than not.
It's funny, whatever you just said triggered a memory for me. Gosh, this was like a gazillion years ago. But I was in a workshop with somebody who made us do this exercise. So, what you do is you take whatever your negative thought is about yourself and you have to say it out loud, right? I'm not capable or whatever it is. I'm not going to succeed here because I've been gone or whatever comes up for you that you can put into a short sentence. And you just keep saying it over and over again out loud until your mind, like your unconscious mind, catches up with your conscious mind. You just start laughing. You're like, that's not true, right? But it's a really interesting exercise to do, right? I'm not capable. 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 And then you're like, yes, I am. What is this?
Yeah.
This is nonsense.
And I think it's certainly not a unique experience to me. There are other partners I've talked to have lateraled over from other firms and they've had the same experience, right? They read the bio and they're like, wow, this sounds impressive when I read it, but if someone were saying that about me, I wouldn't think it. So I think
Yeah,
we all battle that at times, um,
absolutely.
and need to remind ourselves of our own capabilities.
Yeah. You know what's very funny is that I have a birthday coming up in September, which is a special birthday that I was like, I'm going to throw myself a party. And the whole idea was like, I just want what I want, right? It's not like I couldn't have asked my kids or my husband or whatever, or my friends to throw me a party, but I wanted to throw the party because I just want it to be how I want it to be. It's time to like just about send the invites out. And it was so funny. Like I think I wanted it to be how I wanted it to be, but I hadn't really thought about the fact that like I was going to be the center of attention, right? Because it was like my party. And like I'm having some feelings about that, right? And it's such a right, like it's that dichotomy that you're talking about. It's yes, I want to celebrate, I want to party, right? Like I want everything to be how I want it to be. And then it's ooh, but then it's going to be all about me. And I'm not really sure I want to be the center of attention, right? And it's but you can check back with me. I've already rented like the space. So I'm going to make myself do it, but I'm having some feelings. I'm having some feelings. Let's just say that.
I think you ought to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I will. I will. But I was surprised that like, I've just been so, like, yes, I want this. Yes, I want this. Yes, I want this. And now that it's almost here, I'm like, "Ooh." But yes, I will do it. So what do I do? Okay, so I'm having the feelings, right? You had some feelings when you came back. How did you get yourself feeling confident again or kind of quelch that stuff?
It really didn't take much time. It's a little bit old hat, and you're like, this is the same thing I've been doing, and nothing has changed on that front. And even what has changed, like I'm capable of doing new things too.
Mhm.
And some of it is shifting your whole mindset. Instead of thinking of time I was away from the firm, it was time I was gaining additional experience that I simply didn't have. And really changing my mindset about it to recognizing the value that adds and the different
Right.
perspectives I gained from being in house. Because it does change how you deliver advice to your clients and some of your thinking about what they may be grappling with because you've seen that from the inside in a
Right.
way that you didn't have visibility to before.
Yeah, I always think that a shift in mindset for something that is authentic and true, right? It's a very effective technique for you can use it for a lot of things, but especially when you're feeling that maybe momentary kind of lack of confidence. And then like you said, especially in this case, you've done it before. Once you have that mindset shift and you kind of get back into it, then you're like, "Oh, I got this." Yeah. Which I think when that's maybe the other part of it, which is just one foot in front of the other, right? You just got to do the reps, you got to do the things and I don't know who wrote the book, but feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah, and I think there can be good nerves and there can be bad nerves. And I've never wanted to be the person who has some kind of nervousness that then prevents you from trying something or doing
Right.
something. That's I'd
Yeah.
always want to err on the side of giving it a whirl and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I love that. And for you in particular, would you say that because you're a runner, right? So is running something that helps clear your head or is it really something separate for you?
For me, that's one space. I'm not very great about making time for myself in general, but getting some kind of exercise every day, whether that's running or going to CrossFit or whatever,
Mhm.
having that space is really important for my mental health and level setting and getting outside of all the things that you're in. And sometimes I found you end up doing some of your best thinking when you're in that zone and you stepped
Yeah.
away from the brief, you've stepped away from the issue for a bit, you're not thinking about it at all, and
Mhm.
suddenly it clicks of
Yeah.
how does this make sense or what is our best argument. For me, those have been important pieces that I think actually help my work, don't take away from it.
Yeah. I had an epiphany yesterday during Zumba. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's funny because the week before, when I was driving home and I was talking to my husband, we always like, how was Zumba? And I'm like, well, Zumba was fine, but my mind was so busy, right? And this week was actually much more fun. And that's not a usual thing. But I think because last week at this particular class, my mind was very busy. I'm like, okay, I want to be present for this because
Yeah,
this is fun. Yeah. Believe it or not, Andy, those are all the questions I have for you today.
much for having me.
Yeah, I am just really excited to have this conversation with you and really love the wisdom that you've given and really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Kim. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. All right, friends, you've been listening to Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom. If you want to connect with Andy, we'll put her link down there and you can say hi to her and connect with her. And for me, I would love you to do two things. One, if you love the podcast and you like this conversation, please subscribe. It really helps us. And then the second thing is subscribe to my newsletter. We put it out one time a week. It's got just one thing in it and then an action item to take some steps to do stuff, not just think about stuff. Thank you so much. You've been listening to Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom. Go out there and be a better human.
Where cliches come to retire. Drop that beat, turn down